So I want to give a brief explanation about this adding or subtracting equations process. You've looked at several examples using the pan balance to show both sides of that equation. So I just want to reiterate to you that when you're adding or subtracting equations, everything in math dealing with equations is always like a balancing act. What you do, and this is what I mean. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. So you want to keep it balanced. You don't want the equation to look like this. Equation means equal. Equal. So both sides always have to be treated the same way. And you'll hear me say this many times. What you do to one side, you must do to the other to keep that as an equation. So, with that in mind, let's look at just a few problems because you're going to have some assignments this week like this. If you have the problem x plus 2 equals 10, in your mind, I know because you're brilliant like that, you can figure out already what that x stands for, what that variable, what we need to put in there. And I purposely started all of these with ones that you would easily get. Because you know how it is in math and everything else, it's going to get harder and harder. So what we need to do to figure out what x is we must get the x alone or isolated. And in this case, that means we need to get rid of that 2, so x would be on one side of the equal sign by itself. But when we do that, we must have that balancing act. So to get rid of a plus 2, we subtract 2 because that brings me to 0. And that would help me in this problem. So on this side, I've taken away 2. So if I do it on this side, I must do it on that side. So my new equation is x plus 2, take away 2 equals 10, take away 2. When I do that, those are gone. And that leaves me x by itself. And 10 take away 2 equals 8. So up in this blank, up in this spot here, instead of the x, it could be 8 plus 2 equals 10. Of course, you already knew that, I'm sure. I wanted it to be easy. I want you to learn the process because you know that math. So I want you to learn the process. So if we take another one, just a little bit bigger numbers, but I still think just as easy. This is to learn the process. I'm trying to figure out what x is. I don't know what it is. In order to figure that out, I need to get the x alone or isolated. And in this case, I've added 25 to it. So if I took 25 away, that would leave me with 0. X plus 0 is x. So that would help me figure this out. So I have to do it on both sides of the equation. So I have x plus 25. If I take away 25, that's going to leave me with nothing but x. If I do it to one side, I must do it to the other. So I have 95 take away 25. So x equals 70. I'm getting the x alone by keeping both sides balanced. Now these were with x when you've added something to x. I also want to look at it when you take away something from x. If you take away something from x to get it to 0, then I have to add something back. So if my problem is x take away 10 equals 8, to get x all by itself, I must add something to that 10. So if I'm taking away 10 and I add 10, I'm going to get to 0. That will leave me x by itself. But if I add 10 here, I have to add 10 there. So x becomes 18. And I can test this out to see if it works. I can come over here and say 18, take away 10, 8. And that equals 8. So I did get the right answer. Let's look at 2 more real quickly. I have x take away 15 equals 2. I need to figure out what that x equals. That's my big problem. So since I'm taking something away, to get it to 0, I add something to it. So I have my original problem. I add 15, but if I do it to this side, I must do it to that side. 2 plus 15 is 17. This gets rid of those and leaves me with x. So x equals 17. And I can test it again. Put the 17 in for x, take away 15 equals 2. I did it right. Last one. X take away 5 equals 28. I'm taking away 5, so I must add 5 to it to get that x alone. And if I add it to this side, I must add it to that side. So x take away 5 plus 5 is nothing. That leaves me with x. And 28 plus 5 equals 33. Again, I can double check this. 33 for the x, take away 5 equals 28. So I solved it correctly. Just remember, it's a balancing act. What you do to one side must stay balanced to the other. Good luck this week.